Hello, boys and girls of Credit Union Land, and welcome to episode 32 of the CUInsight Experience. My name is Randy Smith. I am one of the co-founders and the publisher of CUInsight.com, and it is my job on the show to have conversations with the best and the brightest of the credit union community. I get to pick their brains and see if we can't find a few nuggets that we can all learn from. My guest on this week's show is Bob Trunzo. Bob has been with CUNA Mutual Group since 2005 and became the current president and CEO in 2014. I had the opportunity to hear Bob speak earlier in the year, and at that point knew I really wanted to get him on the show. We talked about a ton in this episode, the pace of change in financial services and what CUNA Mutual Group is not only doing to keep pace with that change, but also to be a leader in it, to the point that they were named a digital disruptor in the press recently. What is agile technology? We talk about that too. And why is it important to take risks? And when you do, and you will fail from time to time, how do you decide when to cut those losses? This part sparked a real interesting part of the conversation that I think you'll all enjoy. It was very cool. I was excited to talk to Bob about the work they're doing with diversity and inclusion at CUNA Mutual Group. I know it's something he's passionate about. They've won multiple awards on being a best place to work. So we talked about culture, not only building it, but maintaining it as well. There were just a ton of great nuggets in this episode in the leadership and life hacks portion of the show. Bob has great experience, and he was willing to share that with us. We even find out what Bob writes on a note card the first of every year that he carries with him all year long. As always, we wrap the whole thing up with the rapid fire questions and got to know Bob a little bit better. So, without further ado, I give you my conversation with Mr. Bob Trunzo. Enjoy. Bob, thank you so much for taking some time to be on the show today. I was really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
There were so many different directions I thought we could go. A few months back, I saw you down at PSCU, and there were so many things that you were talking about that I thought were exciting, and you seemed excited as well. So I just wanted to jump right into it. CUNA Mutual Group, you've been around serving credit unions for 88 years, I do believe. How do you change an organizational culture from that's the way it's always been done into, quite honestly, a digital disruptor in the space?
Well, it would be probably a fun comment to say it's been really easy after 84 years of corporate history. But, we've made some great progress. And, I think it's pretty clear that if you really want to be a successful company and you really want to lead in any space, whether it's the credit union space or the financial services space, you gotta remain relevant. And relevance is defined now as providing a customer experience on par with what consumers, credit union members get every day. So the decisions about the kinds of products we sell to credit unions, the platforms we engage with credit unions on, we've got to be able to match the customer experiences of the Amazons and the Apples and the Googles. And that's a big, big, big challenge. And but we're going to embrace it. And especially around, and we have embraced it, especially around life insurance and the delivery of some of our basic, long-term products that members have relied on for years.
You used a word that I always like to kind of fit in there when I'm asking some questions during this part, and that's relevance for credit unions. What are the biggest challenges that you see credit unions facing today to stay relevant? And, what's CUNA Mutual Group doing to help?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that in financial services, members have more choice than ever. It's their ability, and they have more choice not only in product, but where to have their financial services products, where to have their primary financial service relationship, their primary banking relationship. They just have so much more choice. And that means we got to bring game to the table. And that means we got to be able to offer them the same kinds of products and services, the same kind of customer experience. When I say we, I mean credit unions and CUNA Mutual. We've got to be able to offer our services and products on par, if not better than what the banks are offering. So I think a lot of it revolves around delivering the customer experience, not the one that we want or the one the credit union wants, but the one the member and the consumer wants. And that's what's critical. That's what's difficult to sometimes get through to people is that, hey, people have a lot of choice. And while credit unions have a compelling value proposition, sometimes that's not the deciding factor. The deciding factor might be, hey, can these guys make it easy for me to do this? And can I do it all the time? And where can I do it? And what can I do? That's really crucial.
You know, it's interesting you say that about the member or the customer. I was just listening to an audiobook while I was traveling from Richard Branson's latest biography from a couple of years back. And he was talking about hearing directly from the customer. And one of the reasons he loved social media was because he could hear directly. He was like, we got rid of surveys and all of this, to make the virgin experience, something. And it reminded me, when I was preparing for this, of something that I heard on a podcast with the CEO from Walmart, where he said they're not a retailer anymore. They're a data company at this point. And when I heard you speak at PSCU, from the outside looking in, it seems like CUNA Mutual Group could almost say that too, not just an insurance company anymore. You guys are doing a lot, including with data, with diversity, and with, even outside ventures to, kind of keep moving forward. How do you describe CUNA Mutual Group today?
Well, a couple things. First of all, this is not your mom and dad's CUNA Mutual anymore. I think about where we were just 3 to 5 years ago, and we're just not even remotely close to being the same company. And that involves our ability to move faster, be more agile, and really co-developing solutions and co-developing consumer experiences with credit unions. And think about it for a second. If you take a step back, through our channel partners, credit unions, we're reaching more consumers digitally now than we ever have in our 84-year history. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, we had heard from consumers, our research had indicated, this whole ability of purchasing low-cost life insurance. We don't necessarily want to call a call center. We don't want to talk to an agent. We'd like to start the process digitally. And you know what? Because that allows us to do it when we want to do it. We can read about it on our own time. We can do some other research while we're on the internet looking at your website. So what we did is a couple years ago, with the help of McKinsey and our teams here at CUNA Mutual, we created an online digital experience for simplified issue life and whole life, low face amount life insurance. And, what would have normally took us, I don't know, we'd still be doing it, Randy. we'd still be doing it now. It took us almost 8 months start to finish to get this done, including insurance approvals. And we've written almost $3 billion of covered insurance for credit union members and consumers. In fact, we were all joking around. I think I've said this to our teams. CBS Moneyline named us a digital disruptor for that product that we introduced to the market. And I told our board, I said, I've heard CUNA Mutual called a lot of things. Digital disruptor has not been one of them.
That wasn't one you were expecting to hear, was it?
It wasn't one I was expecting. But you know what? It illustrates the ability to be agile. But it really speaks to, this is what consumers want. And this is what we have to deliver. And if I would have told you 3 years ago, hey, you can go online, answer a couple questions, push a few buttons, and get financial protection from your family, you'd tell me I'm crazy.
It's pretty cool. I remember this was a term that kind of stuck in my head about being agile, like when it comes to technology. So it seems like that's a great example of it with the pace of change in financial services overall, and quite honestly, just in everything overall. How do you do that? How do you stay agile?
The pace is fast, and agile is defined. How do we stay agile? Great question. Couple ways. Number one, you have to continue to move forward. You have to run faster. The pace isn't getting any slower, so we can't slow down. And frankly, the other thing, not only is it a commitment about culture, and it's a commitment about how you work, but it's also a commitment about how much money you spend to get there. Capital and the ability to invest now and into the future, absolutely huge. And we're blessed because of our partnership with credit unions and members. We're blessed with a really, really strong balance sheet. And, we're using that capital to invest back in the company. Just in the last couple of years, the investment back in CUNA Mutual has been over $200 million. Wow. That's money we put back in to our platforms, our processes, digital delivery of insurance products, our data analytics company. We have an innovation center looking at the next generation of payment protection products or low-cost products for credit unions and consumers, credit union members and consumers. It's a combination of being agile, being fast, and committing your balance sheet to do this as well.
That sparked another question. When you're moving that fast, mistakes, not everything's going to be a home run. How about that? How do you, as a leader, how do you know when to, pull the plug on something so that we only have so many resources, so much time, right?
I wish it was really easy and you never had to pull the plug. But if you're going really fast and you're driving change, as I say in the building, we're going to swing at the 3-2 pitch and miss it.
Yep.
We're not going to foul it off. We're going to miss it. And we talk about failing fast. We talk about calling it early. And frankly, that's the biggest issue. We have to get better at calling it quicker. I mean, there's this Midwest attitude here that, if you give us enough time, we'll figure it out. But in an agile environment, the way we work fast, we've got to be better at calling the ball. Now, we've done that on a couple of big investments so far, especially in our venture fund. But the point is, if you call it and you fail, what have you learned from that? And can you take those learnings and will that inform you to be a better leader, a better company, and allow you to go faster? That's what we focus on, but we're getting better at it.
I can tell you as a small business owner, it's one of the things I struggle with. You don't start an idea thinking it's not going to work. So to actually pull the plug on something that isn't working.
I can't tell you how many meetings I've said if we just have another couple more months. No. It's done. We can't do it. It's not the right thing to do. Let's move on.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears a little bit. Something that I've noticed you talk about quite a bit, and I know you guys are working on a lot at CUNA Mutual, is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right. That's something that I've tried to keep front and center on the podcast. Why is this so important for CUNA Mutual Group? Since you've taken over as CEO, would you say the teams and the company internally are maybe looking more like the members?
Yeah, well, when I became president and CEO in 2014, the first thing I added to our core values was inclusion. We added inclusion as a core value. And look, it's pretty simple. Greatness can come from anywhere in our company, and we've done a much better job of embracing not only diversity of people, but diversity of ideas. And it's a huge focus area for us because we want to reflect not only we want to reflect the changing demographic of our members, but also the changing values of our members. And these values are a very important part of the fabric of our company. It's interesting. We have 12 employee resource groups in our company, and I get around and really try to interact with almost all of them. And I think these resource groups have made us a much better company, a much more aware company, and a company really, really starting to be invested in, on a day-to-day basis, inclusion and embracing the diversity on a day-to-day basis. And, I tell our folks, this is a journey, right? So you're going to take a few steps forward. You might go sideways, but at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, we always have to be a few steps further than we were before.
So is there anything that you guys are doing besides, I mean, is it, you're leading by example, obviously. It's something that, I mean, you've vocally put it out there and you're doing the work inside. Is there anything you're also doing to help credit unions? Because that is that's a big topic of conversation right now as well across the whole industry.
We're very aware of that. And there's a couple things we're doing for credit unions. I'll just give you a couple quick examples. One is we've established a multicultural center of excellence. It's closely in line with our D&I team. And this helps us understand, how different cultures respond to messages and behaviors so we can better understand our customers. I think the second thing is TrueStage, which is our big consumer member-facing brands. Well, we use those insights to influence our language, our imagery, our marketing materials. So really, really focus on this. And I had to tell you, this comes with a little bit of risk. I mean, we tested an image of a same-sex couple in TrueStage mailing. And while many credit unions applauded what we're doing, there were a few credit unions that we received member complaints on. So this has allowed us to take a realistic view and allowed us to put a little bit more rigor around what we're doing.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, our values remain uncompromised here.
Absolutely. Well, I love the work you guys are doing. I've been following your team over there that's been working on that as well. And it seems like you've got an amazing crew. So you need the people at the top to buy in or it's not going to happen, right? So
well, and I also think, Randy, I think the big thing, let me just say one final thing. I think the big issue is this is good for our business.
Absolutely.
We need to do this for our business because we need to reflect the values and the demographic of our customers. And we've made great progress there. Now, are we done? No. Does the journey continue every day? You bet.
Absolutely. Like I said, I love what you guys are doing. So I applaud you on that. Kind of turns into you've created a culture there at CUNA Mutual Group. You've won awards for being a great place to work with so many other things on your plate. We talked about digital disruption. We talked about the pace of change. How do you keep the focus on sustaining that culture or actually improving it?
Well, the culture is really, really driven by our employees. And I tell my fellow CEOs in the insurance industry, and I tell our board all the time that I'm just really honored to lead this company because we have 3,200 people that get up every day and think about doing the right thing for credit unions. And they're invested, they're engaged, and it is a unique, special culture. And I'll have to tell you that what we want to do as leaders is we need to continue to empower this kind of behavior. We need to, and it's like the old adage in basketball, you can't coach height, right?
Right.
Well, at the end of the day here, there's just such a focus and appreciation of respect for credit unions and for members that we get up every day trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, why do we need to do it, and how can we be better?
That's fantastic. We've seen a lot of credit unions disappear over the past decade. You mentioned the challenges earlier. Is there one thing that you think credit unions need to do, say, sooner rather than later, or a belief that needs to be changed?
Well, first of all, you can never take for granted or underestimate the loyalty of your members, right, or our customers. So, I think relationships are really helpful. I think it only takes you so far. So I think part of addressing the disappearance comes back to what you and I talked about earlier, relevance. What do you provide? What's your digital experience? What are you looking for in a digital experience of members? How can you get your members to the next step? How can you address what they want going forward? How can you anticipate what they want going forward? And, frankly, we need to do the same thing. And we're getting better at it and we're getting faster at it. But, I just spoke to a bunch of our college interns on campus. We have 70 interns who are with us for the summer. And I said to them, look, whether you work here or not, in the future, and I said, we'd like all of you to get a job here at CUNA Mutual. You need to work for a company that is thinking about the future, investing for the future, and planning for the future, because it's all about the relevance of your company to your customers and to the marketplace.
That's good. Hearing you speak, you sound excited about what's happening in the financial services space. Is there something that has you more excited than anything else, or has you geeked up?
I mean, what we're focused on, what's really exciting for me, is to keep pace with the pace of change, to help our credit union partners and to deliver to our members the change they want in the platform they want when they want it. And I think that's exciting. I think that's a huge challenge. And and you can't stand still. And that's what's exciting. Every day we're trying to move forward. We're trying to get better. And look, I get the cards and letters. Sometimes we trip. Sometimes we turn around and run into a wall. The important thing is, dust yourself off, get back up, and keep running.
Keep going. Hey,
you got to keep going.
I'd like to move on to the second part of the show, the leadership and life hacks. I know you'll have a ton to share here. What inspired you, first and foremost, to take the gig as president and CEO of CUNA Mutual Group?
I started at CUNA Mutual in 2005. I got a question from the interns that I was speaking to last week that said, when did you know you wanted to be the president and CEO of CUNA Mutual? I said, 2014, when they told me I was going to be the president and CEO of CUNA Mutual. I like to say there was a lot of planning and a lot of foresight, and there was a little bit of that. It's just a huge honor to lead the company, and it's a huge honor to move us forward. I think if I look back, I think I'm the 8th CEO.
Wow.
In the 84-year history of the company, 8th or 9th, maybe. So we've had a lot of long tenured people.
Yeah, that's for sure. Since you became CEO, has the inspiration changed at all when you kind of moved up to the top of the organization?
Not only the inspiration, but the focus. And the way I approach the job, Randy, is that there's a finite amount of time I have in this job. So I chunk out the years, I chunk out the quarters. Hey, look, this is what we have to get done by this year. This is where we want to go here. And there's a note card I carry around every year. And I talk to our employees about it at the forum. It's kind of legendary. I have my 4 or 5 big items on my note card. Start at the beginning of the year, throughout the course of the year. Hey, here's my note card. Here's where we are on our 5 big ideas or 4 big ideas. And that inspires me to get those issues addressed.
I've got to ask about the note card. Is that something you fill out Jan 1 or something you carry with you? Or
It's something I carry with me. It's something I fill out on January 1. Everybody knows what they are. We talk about it all the time. In fact, I get employee emails. Hey, Bob, what do you think is going to be on your note card for next year? And look, it's not fancy.
Yeah,
it's simple, but I just believe so much in business, so much in industry, so much in our world. You just need to reduce your objectives. You need to reduce what you want to accomplish to a couple simple ideas.
I mean, the focus, it does matter, right? I had a question for you about like your leadership style. And I think more importantly, like how has that changed over a career? We've mentioned about, the change in consumers and credit union members and credit unions. As a leader, have you changed also?
I would like to think I've changed. I think it depends on the day. I know one thing hasn't changed. I'm an impatient leader. I want to keep pushing. I want to keep driving. I think what's really changed is our ability here to rely on a really good team. And, if you ask about, leadership style kind of morphs into what kind of a team I have here. And I'm a firm believer in hiring really, really smart people that are much smarter than I am, and more importantly, complement my skill set. So in other words, is Bob does Bob like to build out all the detail behind the big ideas? God forbid, I hope not. But we have some really talented people here that do that. And we have some talented people that like doing that. So I really lean on a lot of key people here who complement. We all complement our skills. And look, if you give me a really talented, smart person who likes to work in groups, who likes to be congenial in how he or she conducts themselves, I'll take those every day. I just think it's important to have that kind of ability to have an executive mesh with the team.
So did you build your executive team over time, or did you inherit some of it? What was that?
A combination of both.
Yeah.
I built it over time. I inherited some of it, and I hired some new leaders to bring into the company. And I think there's a huge advantage to that. And that's why I think it's critical. So we have a couple of CUNA Mutual, what I would call veterans here that have been here a long time. Now, what's interesting is those leaders have adapted their management style over time, but they bring a sense of the sustained culture of the organization. Specific hires for talent and a subject matter expertise fits in nicely to where we want to go on digital, where we want to go on consumer, and then the ability to grow some of that talent internally. And what we're really proud of is the diversity of our senior leadership at the top, and proud of the diversity on our board as well. And we work really hard to achieve what can be really difficult, but we like doing that, and we're proud of that.
That's fantastic. Is there something that your team has heard you say so many times that they could finish your sentence?
Yeah, two things. How did this happen? And then the other one is, I always ask, okay, so what's the impact to the credit union? What's the impact of the member? What does this do to the member? What does this do to the credit union? Because sometimes back at the corporate spaceship, you lose track of, how do credit unions feel about this? Or is this easy for members to do? And those are all kinds of questions people are used to me asking. And it really comes down to why I carry note cards. It comes down to why you really in business, I think the companies that are really successful simplify what they need to do and simplify how they do it.
When you think back to earlier in your career, was there a mistake that you made that you talked about bringing up people through the ranks just, on your senior leadership team? Is there a mistake that you see young leaders make often that maybe you did when you were younger as well?
I see young leaders sometimes not wanting to recommend a course of action, not making a decision. And I tell our teams here, look, you heard me use this comment at PSC. The highway's littered with dead squirrels who couldn't make up their minds. So make a call. Making a decision is better than no decision, because no decision leads to uncertainty. It leads to people filling in the lines. So I think that's a little bit about making a decision, a little bit about having some confidence to make a decision.
I have to ask the insurance guy, has there been a memorable failure that you were actually happy with because it led to future success or something you can think of?
There's been a number of failures. Probably the most publicized public failure involved my big civic project in the 1990s. I happened to be appointed as the chairman of the Miller Park Stadium District Board, and that was the district board that designed and built the construction of Miller Park in Milwaukee, which is home of the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team. And towards the end of the project, we had a tragic accident on the site. It delayed the opening of the stadium a year, and 3 ironworkers were killed. In fact, yesterday was the anniversary of that accident. And as I was thinking about that yesterday, we were talking about lessons learned, a couple of us. And I think one of the things that we learned, and one of the key learnings, that, look, nothing good comes out of a tragic accident like that, other than the fact that you have to rise to the occasion. If you're the chairman of the stadium board, like I was, everybody's looking down at the other end of the table. And you know what? You have to make decisions. You have to lead. You have to have the courage to move forward. And you have to also grieve with the community. And so it made me a much better, well-rounded leader. And I have to tell you, Randy, there has been nothing that I have done in my career after Miller Park that has been as difficult professionally and personally as something like that. It leaves a lasting impact on your life.
I can't even imagine. I appreciate you sharing that. That's how you rise in tragedy, right? Like that's for sure. Switching up from that a little bit, when you run into a wall, or when you and your team does, is there something that you do? Do you have a hack that how you push through, like, to the other side when you're just not, maybe we all get to those points where we're like, we know we can do this, but we're just not seeing it clearly. Do you have anything you do?
Yeah, there's a couple things. First of all, it's not bad to pause for a while. I don't think you want to pause a long time, but I've been involved in some projects here where we'll say, all right, let's take a couple days. Let's sort through this. Let's go back to ground. Let's think about, let's come back to why are we doing this for the members? Why are we doing this for the credit union? And let's get refocused. So I think pause is one. I think the other one is, while you have to be agile, you have to also exercise a little bit of patience. That part I'm not very good at. Others around me are better. So I would say those two elements are important. You always have to come back to, if this is a good thing for the consumer, the credit union member, and the credit union, let's figure out how to get it done.
Get it done. Yep. So if you have a free day, which I'm sure doesn't happen often, nothing on the calendar, what passions do you have outside of CUNA Mutual Group? What do you do to recharge?
So if I have a free day, which is rare, my visit to my Peloton bike downstairs in my rec room. I'm a Peloton disciple. I'm approaching 300 rides. I've had it like a year and a half. So I do that.
You do it often.
And I like it on a free day because I don't have to rush down there at the end of the workday. I can stretch properly. I can do all the things you're supposed to do when you exercise and feel good about it. So that's what I do when I have a free day.
There have been multiple people on the podcast who are part of the Peloton community. It seems like people either love it or they're like, I spent a lot of money.
Well, I'm the one that loves it. I'm the one that actually goes to the studio in New York.
Oh, do you really?
I've been to the live broadcast a couple times. Yeah, I'm like kind of over the top on it. So I want to shut up or we'll use up the rest of our time.
Just talking about that. You're going to have Jill and I buying one. We've been talking about it. So the part 3, the last part of the show, I want to be respectful of your time. They're rapid fire questions. The questions are rapid. Your answers do not have to be. Do you remember the first time you got into trouble, like memorable trouble, something you could share with us?
4th grade, St. Rita's High School, Louisville, Kentucky. Sister Alvin made me stay after school because I was flirting with too many girls during class.
That's fantastic. Do you have any daily routines? You just mentioned the Peloton, that if you don't do it, you just feel off.
Yeah. My normal morning stop at Starbucks.
Oh, yeah. You need the caffeine first.
I need the caffeine to get going.
I'll tell you, we bought an espresso machine for the house about a year and a half ago, and it saved us a ton of money.
I don't blame you, yeah.
The random question, what's the best album of all time? That one you could listen through without skipping a song.
Oh, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's the way of the world.
That's the
favorite album.
That's awesome. We're going to have such a cool playlist at the end of the year here. I'm a reader. Jill and I have a stack of books in our house that have been recommended to us. Is there a book over your life either you've gifted people or you just think everybody should read?
Oh my gosh, I've probably gifted it and read 2 or 3 times To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. It exhibits all kinds of courage, compassion, a little bit of warmth and humor. It talks about class and in the South. And I went to school at the University of Kentucky. Just absolutely think that's a classic.
That's a good one for the list. One I've read, so at least I don't have to go to Amazon right now and buy another one for the stack that I'm not getting through. As you've gotten older, has what's become more important to you? And I'll tell you, the part I like about this question the most is what's become less important?
You know, what's become really important, and I would put it in a context of being at CUNA Mutual right now, is what's really become important to me is getting the organization ready for the next generation of leaders. We spend a lot of time on leadership pipeline. We spend a lot of time on identifying the next leaders in the company to take the company the next 84 years. You know, what has become less important, and I say this with a great deal of confidence, is blocking out a lot of the noise that would have bothered me before. Well, are you moving too fast? Or you guys did this and I'm upset. Not that I don't listen to it anymore, because I do. But at the end of the day, if you have confidence in what you're doing, if you have confidence in the direction your company's going, if you have confidence in the path we've set, it gives you the ability to kind of block out what I would call sometimes the peanut gallery. Don't get me wrong. It's really important to listen to your customers. It's really important to listen to credit union leaders, but it's important to distinguish what is said to make you a better company in what is, editorial commentary from the peanut gallery.
Absolutely. There's a question that I didn't send, so right now your team might be freaking out a little bit. But when you hear the word success, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Iacocca.
How come?
Took the auto industry by storm at a time when it needed to be taken by storm.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, he's just passed away a while back.
Yep.
And I think he was first time around, tremendous, innovative leader. Second person I would say would be Steve Jobs.
Yep.
Just both of those leaders epitomize success, risk, reward, success, innovation, all the adjectives you would think are associated with why one becomes successful.
Yeah, both of those weren't afraid to take a risk, that's for sure. So, Bob, I thank you again for being on the show. The last question I have of you is, do you have any final asks of our listeners or any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I would just say all of our credit union partners, thanks for the trust you put in CUNA Mutual. I know that all of you have expressed great interest and support for what we're doing and how we're doing it right now, and the innovation and the pace. And we just appreciate your patience through this time, but also appreciate the fact that we've had 84 years of partnerships with well over 5,000 credit unions, and we sure appreciate that. Never take it for granted either.
That is the perfect way to end. We will link to everything that we talked about in the show today in the show notes. If people have additional questions of you, do you have a preferred way for them to reach out? You on Twitter or basic email?
Actually, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
My email, robert.trunzo@cunamutual.com. Get all my fans writing me there.
Writing you there, and we'll link over to your LinkedIn profile too. Thank you again, Bob. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and I hope everybody enjoys this show.
Thank you, Randy. You too.